Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Gary Gans. I'm honored but sad to be with you here today as we acknowledge the life and then the conclusion for Irene Black. And we've come together sharing our sorrow to commemorate Irene's life. We recall the blessing of her life, and we thank God for all that was good and true in her life, and for the precious memories which shall endure. Eternal God, her family and friends seek light to dispel the dark gloom that threatens to overwhelm them. Be gracious to those who mourn, for they are in distress. Bless them with your compassion. Ease their burden of sorrow. Send them light and peace. For it is written, fear not, as I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I'll sustain you with my power. And let us all say, Amen. You saw that we had a small little bubble just before the public service began. And I cut the ribbons for Terry and Andy. And it's on the left-hand side as they mourn a parent. Once upon a time, we thought the heart was all the way on the left thousands of years ago. It's now a little more centered, we know. But at the loss of a parent, the ribbon always goes, even now, on the left-hand side, and every other relationship's on the right. So this is a marker to let you all know, and anyone who sees them, that they are mourning. And I cut the ribbons part way. They're never to be restitched, nor are they cut all the way across, because they represent the memories and the life and the connectedness that is maintained into eternity. But standing with us also were Leah and Sammy, Bill, forming the core of those who cared for and were cared by Irene. We also acknowledge the great grandchildren, Noah, Jack, and Austin. And of course, Herbert, her husband, who died almost 3 years ago. And they've been married for 69 years. You don't get to hear numbers like that anymore. So that, Kinahara, was a great achievement. Also not present, but let me not forget to mention her cats, Big Boy and Fearless. But I'm just as glad they're not here physically, so you don't hear my asthmatic reaction to them. But they still were part of her life and were her way of also being cared for and caring about and taking care of these cats. You're going to hear more from Andy and Terry. But the one thing that I heard from them the most was that she was a pistol, a character, stubborn, and you're all acknowledging this, ambitious, and everyone loved her. And of course, she was a fashionista. There's a picture, I saw this yesterday, the picture of her in the scarf, and then I saw the collage on the video. And it looked like her favorite color was blue. She wore other bold colors, but that was the one that stood out the most as most appealing to her, and probably how you remember. I think you said you're dressed in blue in acknowledging her color, so well done. In her honor, I'm going to read from Psalm 23, and followed by an excerpt, an interpretation in English. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, benodesha yaretzeni, al mei benuchot inachaleni. Mafshi yeshovev, yancheni magle tzedek, lema'an shemo. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God has me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. God guides me on paths of righteousness and reveres my soul for the sake of God's glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set a table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. I have a favorite text, if one can have a favorite funereal text, about life and death. I've read it many times from members of my congregation from this very podium, even from my own parents, from right this spot. I'm going to share you the English translation written by a rabbi and scholar from thousands of years ago named Ben Sirach, as his words echo through the eons. We are all destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived, with all who ever will be. Cry for the dead. Hide not your grief. Do not restrain your mourning, but remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, and be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than lingering illness. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but a good name, a good reputation, endures forever. Hearing about the 38 years that she worked for the American Society of Interior Designers, and there are other ways of responding to each of you individually here, I'm going to offer a text on her behalf from the book of Proverbs, in Hebrew it's called Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. A woman of valor who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her family trusts in her, and so they lack nothing. She does them good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her family rises up, and they bless her, and they sing her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. And now to rise and to bless her, I'm honored first to call on Andy to please come up.
I think it's just starting to hit me. Thank you all for coming. I just can't believe the impact she made on so many people. Our spunky Irene. She was a character. And I am wearing blue for her. This was her favorite color, and the scarf. I didn't get the blue eyes, but I got a lot of other things from her. But she did have some beautiful blue eyes. People say that I sound like her, even look like her, and it's a reminder to me of her. I think the only difference is I don't talk very much, and she does. No, I got that from her too, but I think she could outtalk me, believe it or not. She was known for her ability to talk and talk and talk. But she taught me how to write. She was my grammar teacher before I think I got through high school, helped me write my resume and so forth. She taught me how to have good manners. She taught me how to have style. She was our fashionista, and our Sammy is following in that step. She just knew the hair, the makeup, the jewelry, the clothes, and I know I have followed suit. And I thank her for that. She could have a conversation with anybody, even the wall. And I have followed with that trait as well. Most importantly, she gave me the guidance to be a good mother to my 2 daughters, and they are amazing women and mothers. And she helped me become that way. Sorry, guys, I'm making you cry. They've, in turn, been raising wonderful young men. Noah, as we said, is 7. Jack is 3.5, and Austin is 3.25. My girls decided to surprise me with babies in 2020, okay? 3 months apart. Holy cow. But we love it. They play together. She adored them. Maybe even more than us. It's okay. She adored them, and she adored my children. My girls asked me to say a few things on their behalf. They loved Irene, who they called Graham. I called, and Terry called our grandmother Graham. I'm Grammy. I didn't want to be Graham. That's her thing. They have always shared how important Graham was to them and the impact that she had on their lives. Their memories of her stretch from sleepovers in her apartment when they were kids to making silly faces on pancakes with blueberries and whipped cream, to shopping for clothes, for bat mitzvahs, weddings, and job interviews. She took them out shopping. They loved it. They did better shopping with her than we did, okay? And then when I took them shopping, you guys with kids know, Thanksgiving at her house for so many years, and I had to convince her to turn it over to me. And we did. The past few years I've been doing Thanksgiving, but we have wonderful memories with my dad and my mom at her apartment, at their apartment. They loved her strength, her confidence, her independence, and her self-assuredness. They've both gotten that from her. She adored them and their children. They have become strong women, and I feel the same about myself. I became a strong woman because of my mother, in spite of some of our arguments. Sammy and Leah are going to miss her tremendously, as much as I will, but I know they're really going to miss her. And she influenced their lives not only as children, but as adults. And she's going to continue to do that, guys. You know she's up there, okay? She's going to talk to you somehow, all right? Irene was a devoted wife. As we mentioned, she and Herb were married for 69 years, if I have that right. They got married in 1952. Herb passed away almost 3 years ago. She was very independent, as we all know. She was still living alone and driving. It was amazing. She was over 90. She never thought she looked like she was 90. She told me she looked like she was 65, which I'm not sure what that makes me because I'm 67, okay? We would go places and they would say, oh, you look like sisters. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's something wrong with this picture, okay? She was dedicated and ambitious. She gave her heart and soul to ASID, and those that are here from ASID know that. You guys meant everything to her as well, okay? And she would plan events, and my dad would go to these events and wear a name tag that said, Irene's husband. He wouldn't put Herb on there. He was Irene's husband. It was really funny. She loved her designers, and she loved putting the Philadelphia East chapter on the map. She really did, and loved her designers. At 90, she was still looking for a job because she wanted to work. She loved to work and was trying to find one at home. She wanted to make a difference, and she wanted to earn money. God bless her. I mean, 90, we're all looking to retire, and she's trying to still work. Okay. She missed Herb tremendously. I think what she was the most upset about was that he didn't get to meet two of the great-grandchildren. He only got to know Noah. And that upset her, and there were times we'd get together and she'd say, oh, I wish your dad was here. He would love this, and he would have. Dad used to say Mom didn't have a sense of humor, and we used to laugh and go, yeah, she does, okay? Even in the hospital on Saturday, when we had admitted her on Wednesday, on Saturday, even though she wasn't completely here, she had us rolling. She was a riot. It was so funny. So Herb, you're wrong. She did have a sense of humor. She was quite a character, to say the least. One thing she always said to me is you can always count your good friends on one hand. And I have to say that that's really true, and I've taught the girls that too. One of her very special and dearest friends was Bobby. We grew up with Bobby, and she has missed Bobby terribly, maybe even more than Herb. She has missed Bobby terribly, and we were telling her when she was in the hospital, go see Bobby and get caught up. You two have a lot of talking to do. It's been about a few years. Bobby passed in 2016, and they have a lot of catching up to do. Another friend of hers, Flossie, who's still living and is 93, also reiterated what a loving and devoted, creative and ambitious person my mother was, and she was. Here's two funny stories. Because of this weather, my daughter's husbands were not able to get up here because they couldn't get out of their neighborhoods down in Maryland and Virginia. Therefore, the girls didn't have clothes to wear. We went shopping yesterday, Terry, Leah, Sammy, and me. My mother loved to go shopping. We did not. Sammy did, but the rest of us were not crazy about shopping. We spent the day at the mall yesterday shopping and finding clothes and jewelry. Well, not jewelry, we have all hers, and makeup. And we have her jewelry. And we kept looking up and toasting, going, Mom, yep, we're shopping for you, okay? Yes, we are. And we didn't even get into an argument, which was even more amazing. Irene was always in control of her life, as most of you know. This is a really crazy story. On Sunday after she passed, we went over to her apartment. I got in the elevator with a woman. She was going to 4. My mother was on 5. She's been there for 40-some years. I'm pressing the 5 button on the elevator, and it won't work. I'm like, okay, how am I getting to 5? I'm now going up to 4. The woman gets off at 4, and I'm still pressing the 5, and the elevator is just sitting there. Okay, I'm now stuck in the elevator for the first time in 40 years. Are you kidding me? The next thing I know, the elevator goes up to 10, which is the floor that we grew up on in another apartment building. The elevator goes up to 10. The doors do not open. I pressed the 5, and it worked. I'm telling you a true story. And the elevator went back down to 5. And I looked up and I said, Mom, I know you're watching me, and I know you're still in control. And I meant it, and I was laughing. I will miss her. You know, you don't always get along with people, but you have to focus on the good things, and that's what I'm doing. She was a good person. She was a good mother. She was a good friend. She was a hard worker. She helped me become all of those things as well. She was a good businesswoman, and I am the same as well. She was a firecracker, and people have said I am as well, so I have to say I got that too. And she loved chocolate, and I love chocolate. So I have to say she taught me a lot of good things, which I've in turn taught my girls. And I just want to thank you all for being here and remembering her, and let's all remember the good things. Yes, she talked our ear off, but she always had something to say. Thank you so much.
And now I invite Terry to the podium, please.
close. Okay. How to speak of your mother. When you look out in front of all of these people who knew her in lots of different ways, with lots of different memories and lots of different love. My mother, growing up, showed me, I had such an admiration for my mother. Of course, you're looking up to your mother. She was a determined mother, a determined woman, and a determined wife. You couldn't tell her no. Yes, she can be in the workforce while raising children. Yes, Yes, she can get a stockbroker's license as a woman when women weren't doing that. Yes, she can sit at the table with the executives and tell them right from wrong. And then when my father renamed one of their cats Fearless, I think he knew it resembled her because there was no fear, not for her physical changes at 90 years old, not for her changes in hearing, not for anything. It was, let's go. And in many ways, she was fearless. Sometimes she would jump first and figure out the route later and go, whoops, okay, no problem, let's go. Although she was quite the planner and perfectionist for detail. If she taught us anything, she taught us to make sure everything matched. And once she placed a rather intricate candy wrap that was wrapped in an intricate wrapper in the living room because it matched. She had no idea what the candy tasted like, but they matched. And so, don't worry, Terry, we're just leave it there. And I was like, okay, and everything matched. And do you know that the four of us will make sure everything matches? From the jewelry, to the shoes, to the socks, to the watch, to the ear, she taught us that, and it's a blessing. Like most people living through the last 90 years, they weathered adversity, struggles, economic loss, war, hatred, prejudice, change, success, and a growing family. And my mother experienced all of that in the last 90 years. We all take pearls from my mother that are embedded in our souls that guide us, encourage us, and teach us that it's okay to try. As she used to say, why not? Let's go, right? Why not? Mom taught me if there's a will, there was a way. And fortunately, combine that with a bad sense of direction, and sometimes we got in trouble. Like the time we kept going back and forth over the bridge. We kept ending up back at the toll booth. I'm like, Ma, I think don't you worry, she'd say. And I was like, the policeman really doesn't think you should be going back and forth. So we got where we had to go because she easily got lost. She once did drive through a very large flooded kind of puddle in the road. At the time, she was driving a Mustang Ghia, which is like half the size of a Mustang. Mind you, it was black with a red interior, okay? The water was kind of halfway up the door, maybe, and she looked at me and said, what could happen? Let's go. We'll just keep moving. I happened to be in the car with her. We did survive. We now know a lot more about driving through floods and that they can carry you, but that was my mother. My mother was a talker. We all know that, okay? But think about this. We didn't have cell phones and removable phones, so she was attached to the phone on the wall, okay? And would bring her ironing over and bring everything over. Then we found the 20-foot cord so she could get at least a little further around the kitchen. But she was attached, and the phone was attached to her. So we never got to use the phone. And she was a big talker. Although Irene left us quickly and was very ill, she had many moments of clarity, as my sister mentioned. When we were at her side, she did make us laugh. She did have quirks. The kids and I were with her at one point when I said something, and she gave us a face that was such an Irene face, and we went, okay, we know her opinion on that one. So it was like she had facial expressions, comments, sassy sense of humor, and it was such a joy. Though we were in an ICU, it was a joy because she was Irene while she was there. And that's what counted. My mother left us with joy, laughter, and sincerity for the love of her family and for all of you. She mentioned you all. We knew you by name, if nothing else, and the stories, and she will never be forgotten for that. Her isms and her Irene-isms could go on forever and ever, and hopefully later we can talk about more of them, because my mother left something in all of us,
and I will cherish that forever. And thank you all for coming. And let it be known, we are all in color and not in black, because that was my mother's brightness. We are all wearing her jewelry. Some of you have already recognized some of the bizarre pieces, and that was my mother. And I'm glad I get to take that with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy and Terry, for a colorful description of your mother, filling in any of the blanks that people may have had, and sharing that joy. So, again, we appreciate it very much. The next prayer that I'm going to offer on her behalf is called El Malei Rachamim, God, the compassionate one, full of love and full of dedication to us, instructing us that we turn to God even at times of sadness and sorrow, and even the joy that we've had expressed here today. I ask everyone who's comfortable to kindly stand for this prayer. I'll read it in Hebrew and then an English interpretation. El malei rachamim, shochein b'amromim, hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina. B'malot kadoshim u'toharim, k'zohar rakia mazhirim, et nishmata yeshara, shalcha le'olama. Began Eden tehei menuchata, ana ba'ah rachamim, hasireha beseter knapecha le'olamim, utzror b'tzror chaim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, v'tanuach b'shalom amishkava v'nomar. Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Irene Black, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in the tranquility of shalom, of peace. And let us say, Amen. Please remain standing as I read now the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. That's in the booklets that some of you have. This is written in Hebrew letters, but it's really, the language is Aramaic. Despite being called the mourner's Kaddish, the fact is there's no reference to death or sadness. This is a prayer where we thank God for our lives and for the bounty of all that we enjoy in those lives. We begin, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. B'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dekol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mavorach le'olam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma mimeru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael mimeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael mimeru. Amen. Kindly be seated. Any potential memorial contributions are welcomed to either the American Heart Association or the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. At the conclusion now of this ceremony, you are welcome to join with the family as they receive you at the restaurant called Il Villagio here in Cherry Hill.
before you decide 15 minutes.